Topping today's news, the police identify the man shot and killed in southwest New Providence on Thursday morning. Major adjustments to the COVID testing requirements. Prime Minister Philip Davis tells the international market the Bahamas is looking to drastically reduce its debt. And Acting Prime Minister Chester Cooper weighs in on the government's one-year performance. Good evening, Bahamas. I'm Jareno Saunders. This is your JCN Evening News. Thanks for joining us. Police, you went up, I can't see you up on the top there. Yeah. Police officially identified the country's 97th homicide for the year, a 42-year-old man, Darren Williams Gibson of South Street off Nassau Street. Gibson was gunned down on Mays Close off Faith Avenue shortly before 7 a.m. on Thursday morning. Police say it was at that time the victim was walking north on Mays Close when he was approached and subsequently shot multiple times by a dark male who exited a gray and white van. Reports are that Gibson worked at Government House as a messenger. Police are uncertain of the circumstances surrounding this incident and are appealing to members of the public who may have information that can assist police with their investigation to contact the Criminal Investigation Department at Crime Stoppers or 328-TIPS. That's 328-8477. COVID-19 testing requirements for unvaccinated people to have a negative COVID-19 test to enter the country has been eliminated as of Tuesday, September 19th. The Ministry of Health and Wellness making that announcement official in a press release on Thursday. As they continue to relax COVID-19 protocols, health officials say these adjustments were recommended and confirmed by the ministry's advisory committee. Vaccinated and unvaccinated citizens and visitors can enter the Bahamas without testing, regardless of vaccination status. The Ministry of Health says all other platforms that capture and report COVID-19 testing and related data in country will remain in place, and the results will continue to be reported to the surveillance unit at the Ministry of Health and Wellness. As of September 19th, there are 115 active COVID cases in country with 13 people in hospital, 3 of them in intensive care. Health officials will continue to monitor the COVID-19 pandemic and adjust protocols as necessary based on the latest scientific data. The issue of teacher shortage will be with us for a while. This according to the Director of Education, Marcellus Taylor. For months, parents and teachers of SC Boodle Primary School and PJ Bethel High School on Abaco have been complaining of the lack of teacher availability compared to the number of children on that island. Mr. Taylor says they have been trying to combat this growing problem.
It's not our intent to have shortage in any school. But you know, we've said this over and repeatedly in the public that there is a global teacher shortage, and because there's a global teacher shortage, we feel it as well. Now, you know, having said that, you know, there are things that we can and have done in order to remediate that challenge. In the case of Abaco, specifically in the case of Patrick Bethel, we have about 520 students there currently. And as you recall, you know, over the last couple of years, the population at these schools in Abaco was only just building back. And so we've deployed 25 teachers to Abaco who are on the ground right now at Patrick J. Bethel, providing instruction to students. So there are a few classes that are not covered. What we intend to do is to engage supply teachers when we can, until we could get some of our permanent teachers in. Getting permanent teachers is a process. We work with the Public Service Commission, the Ministry of Public Service, with the police in order to vet the teachers and all of that. So it's a process. And so until such time as we can get the permanent teachers in.
The director says getting permanent teachers on that island requires a long process, and until then, the ministry is using the few temporary teachers that it does have and the virtual learning management system, the LMS platform.
We've also sent in one of our assistant directors who has done extensive work with them in ensuring that we redesigned the school-based timetable so that we could get the maximum use out of the teachers. And so that exercise is nearing its completion. And having gone through that exercise, we were able to make some adjustments to the timetable that permits more students to get instruction than getting instruction before we did that exercise.
Mr. Taylor goes on to say that even when they get teachers, many do not want to go to the Family Islands, especially because of the housing situations, particularly on Abaco. However, he says the ministry is doing their best, and he is confident that in a week or two, all of the matters will be resolved, as they plan to send more teachers to that island. As it stands, the country's debt to GDP ratio sits at 82%, and that is down from over 100% the Davis administration met when it took office in 2021. However, Prime Minister Philip Davis says his administration intends to reduce the Bahamas' debt by 50% by the end of this term. During an interview with Bloomberg News in New York, the Prime Minister was asked to respond to the international community and analysts questioning where the Bahamas' debt situation stands. Added to the fact that there is misinformation in the marketplace that suggests the Bahamas' debt sustainability is such that the government will not be able to fulfill its obligations in the future. Prime Minister Davis says this is far from the truth, and where the Bahamas' debt stands is not of its own making.
But what I want to say, though, is that the responsibility for our debt is not of our own making. Because if one were to look at the profile of our debt and how it was incurred, you will find that up to 40 or more % of that debt is directly related to our consequences of climate change.
In 2019, the catastrophic Hurricane Dorian caused the Bahamas some $3.4 billion in damage. Hurricane Matthew in 2016, $750 million in loss and damages. And in 2015, Hurricane Joaquin hit the Bahamas, leaving some $500 million in damages. Add to that Hurricanes Irma and Maria also contributing to the country's debt.
And so most of our debt is basically related to matters to which we did not contribute. Right? And so the industrialized countries that have been using fossil fuel for centuries, I think their bill is due.
What would that look like, a debt forgiveness?
Well, it could look like debt forgiveness, and or we need to find a way, and this is what I've put out there, this is what I'm advocating now. We have to find a way to make these industrialized countries accountable for what they've had. What we must remember is that most people are now talking about mitigation and adaptation.
Prime Minister Davis contends that loss and damage is still not making its way to the agenda and says it must be realized that a lot of carbon is still in the air, which has to be sucked out, as it is not enough to just reduce emissions. He says this is where the Bahamas comes in, having a lucrative carbon sink. The Prime Minister says he is hopeful that once our carbon assets have been verified, he hopes to have it on the stock market before the end of the year.
We have identified a significant carbon sink that is now should be before Vera for verification. Once that's verified, we'll try and have a trade on the stock market.
How much do you think you can raise?
Well, let me put it this way. Once the word got out that we were pursuing monetizing carbon credits, I had unsolicited offers just to buy it from numbers ranging from 350 million to 400 million. So for me to have had that, it tells me it's probably 4 times that.
And that's just the first one.
And that's only dealing with one aspect of it.
Prime Minister Davis is in New York attending the 77th session of the United Nations General Assembly. With the Progressive Liberal Party recently celebrating its 1-year anniversary since becoming the government, ministers have given their thoughts on the performance of the current administration 1 year in. Speaking with Acting Prime Minister Chester Cooper at the weekly cabinet briefing, he says his Ministry of Tourism, Investments and Aviation has experienced significant accomplishments, adding that it is clear to everyone that the economy is rebounding due to the return of tourists to the Bahamian shores.
This doesn't happen by chance. It's not happenstance that our industry is open. The Ministry of Tourism has a very strong machinery internationally that sends the message to the world that we're open and we're ready to do business. we see the tourism numbers rebound almost to the 2019 levels. It continues to grow. By next year, we expect that we will exceed pre-pandemic levels. So that's the first point.
Mr. Cooper says the country continues to get very large numbers due to increased airlift, attracting more than 6 new flights from large countries around the world, expanding the country's airlift footprint.
We have 12 flights a week out of the UK, including British Airways that existed before, and Virgin Atlantic that came within the last year. So we continue to work diligently to build this airlift. Again, it takes negotiations, it takes sending a clear message to the market that we're open, and I am grateful to the hard work of the Ministry of Tourism team. We're attracting upwards of 20,000 passengers a day, sometimes in the Nassau Cruise Port, upwards of 11,000 visitors per day on weekends through the Independent International Airport. Again, none of this happens by chance. This is our largest industry, and we must ensure that the engine continues to run. So we've primed the pump.
The acting Prime Minister made reference to the Missions Around the World initiative conducted by the Ministry of Tourism with promotional events in the United States, Canada, Europe, and in the Middle East in an effort to attract more visitors to the Bahamas. As for the investment sector of his portfolio, Mr. Cooper says the Bahamas has attracted more than $3 billion of new investments.
A lot of it is coming through the tourism sector, but all of the other sectors are participating actively in this engagement as well. We have attracted a lot of investments to our family islands, inclusive in this $3 billion. Abaco, Eleuthera, Exuma, being right there with Nassau and Grand Bahama in terms of the level of investments they're attracting. So I'm very pleased with what we see.
In the aviation sector, Mr. Cooper says there has been significant improvement, with the International Civil Aviation Organization, or ICAO, giving the Bahamas a 63% rating, an increase from the previous rating of just 32% under the previous administration. And finally, in this segment, earlier this week, Dr. Kenneth Roma, Bahamas Deputy Director General of Tourism and Acting Director of Aviation, was a keynote speaker among public and private regional leaders at the 6th Caribbean Infrastructure Forum, or CARIF, considered the go-to regional event on infrastructure. The forum, held at the Ritz-Carlton in Miami, brought together more than 250 leaders from 30 countries to shape the future of infrastructure and capital projects for the Caribbean. Dr. Roma presented on the topic, Airports Back in a Big Way. His presentation delved into the critical linkages between tourism and aviation and how governments and investors perceive the opportunities in the Bahamas and what can be done to drum up investor appetite. He highlighted the Bahamas' government's priority in seeking private sector partners to lead airport operations and development projects throughout the archipelago, and elaborated on strategic actions taken across the portfolio to support the tourism and hospitality sector, with the ultimate objective being post-pandemic recovery and the unlocking of future growth. We'll take a break here. We'll be right back after these commercials.
Kids, let's go! Sean, what are you doing?
I solved it. We'll buy our life insurance policy from this company and then go over here and get our home insurance. Then get our motor policy from right over here.
Or we could just get it all with CG Atlantic. Save a lot of money and effort.
They do it all? Even pensions?
Even pensions.
We're like a husband that doesn't overcomplicate everything. CG Atlantic. Good like that.
Now I know I've said it before, but this time, I swear it's different. Grammy dreamed about this number, so I won't lose. I can't lose. This is my last time. Please, son, just give me one more chance. I'll give it all back to you.
Excessive gaming affects more than just the gamer. This message has been brought to you by the Gaming Board for the Bahamas, which encourages you to game responsibly.
Marlin Marine and Generac have the standby generator that fits your needs. Conserve power by using only 1 or 2 circuits during an outage with our 7.5 kilowatt. Or manage your power usage with our 10 to 16 kilowatt standby. But why only power part of the house? Get whole house protection with our 20 kilowatt Generac standby and never lose power again. Give us a call at 393-7873 and get the right unit for you. Marlin Marine, giving you power on land and sea.
Did you know that registering your farm with the Department of Agriculture is currently free of charge? It comes with a wide range of benefits, such as assistance with feeder farm roads, land clearing and tractor services, assistance with Department of Immigration for obtaining foreign farm labor at a reduced permit fee, access to fish and farm stores for agricultural input supplies, sale of produce at packing house, produce exchange, abattoir services at a reduced price, training at the food technology laboratories, disaster relief assistance, and free veterinary extension services. For more information on any of these incentives, please call the Ministry of Agriculture, Marine Resources, and Family Island Affairs at 397-7400. That's 397-7400. For additional updates, you can follow the ministry on social media at MOAMRFIA Bahamas.